Well, good evening, everybody. I am Ryan alongside Caleb here. Michigan Storm Chasers going to do our Monday night weekly live stream. It's going to be a pretty quick one, I would assume, tonight. So maybe have some Q&A at the end of this if you guys want to stick around and hang out with us a little bit. Overall, it's going to be a pretty easy week coming up. Take it day by day here, take it breakdown by breakdown. So first and foremost, welcome. This is something that we do every single night, every single week here, usually on Sunday or Monday. So welcome to the stream, guys. Go ahead and smash the like button for us. Let's go ahead and dive in, get started. The upcoming week here, we're looking at a very fall-like week in Michigan. Temperatures for the first half of this week will start in the 50s, perhaps 40s up in the UP, close to the lakeshore, up in northern lower, 40-degree temperatures, but further south and inland, we're going to be probably in the 50s. So today was very cold. Tomorrow is going to be a repeat of today. Wednesday will likely be a repeat as well. So right around 50 degrees or so is expected. Then we hit Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We see a trend upward before a rise back into about 70, perhaps low 70s is expected to end the week and to start next week. We'll keep an eye on that. But overall, warming trend is expected after the next couple of days of very cold fall-like temperatures. With these cold temperatures, though, we do have some showers and some, I'm not going to say rumbles of thunder, but some showers, some showers around here. And the combination of the cold air temperatures and the warm lake waters are creating environments on our Great Lakes for water spouts. So if you haven't looked on the page, on our Facebook page, Lake Michigan has had a few spouts today and yesterday. Those will continue to be chances tonight as well as tomorrow and perhaps Wednesday as well before the low pressure system and our source of lift exits the region. So water spouts are possible again today, tomorrow, and perhaps Wednesday as well. We actually seen one come on shore yesterday near Holland. Now those don't really pose a threat to much of a threat, should I say, for those who are along the lake shores, but they can cause some weak damage to weaker buildings or trampolines or lawn furniture, stuff like that. So do keep in mind if you live directly on the lake shore that we may have a few instances of water spouts that try to come on land, but overall it's not a very high concern. It never really is, but there's an outside chance it could happen. Okay, so I want to mention that as well. Looking at rain chances for the upcoming week, though, switching over to the HRRR model, popping back over here to the afternoon run, looking at these scattered little, what I call popcorn showers across the state today. Those will continue into tonight. Notice how they're over Lake Michigan. Those will be the source of some water spouts potentially tonight, as well as Huron and Lake Erie tomorrow, overnight into tomorrow morning as well. So those little popcorn showers could produce some water spouts in the morning tomorrow. But overall, the majority of the state will stay dry through the early morning. It could be kind of misty out there at times. But overall, the heaviest or heavier, should I say, rain should be holding off through the day tomorrow until the evening, where we have some scattered showers. Try to work inland. We may see a few heavier downpours in those showers, but the majority stays over the lake, Lake Michigan, Lake Erie, Lake Huron. So no big concern for any flooding or big rain risk. But just keep that in mind tomorrow. We could have some lingering showers around in lower Michigan, perhaps UP as well. Outside of that, the Wednesday period does look to taper off into a drier pattern. And then as we get to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we will warm and we will stay dry until roughly that Sunday time frame here. The long-term GFS model here showing the green is as rain, and then we move through Wednesday. It keeps us dry. Here's Thursday, dry. Friday, dry. Then as we get to the weekend, we have some rain trying to work its way in there up in the UP, perhaps northern lower, maybe lower peninsula as well, but overall chances are much higher to the north. So a dry end of the week here is expected with rain chances returning potentially for Sunday, especially for those of you who live further north. One last thing I'll mention as far as this week goes, you're seeing blue here on the GFS model. We could see some snow showers around tomorrow morning and perhaps early afternoon, especially for the UP and northern lower Michigan. It's not a very high threat. We're not going to see accumulations of the snow, but you may see wet snowflakes trying to mix in at times, especially where it's colder. So don't be shocked if you happen to see a few snowflakes tomorrow. The chances are higher the further north you go, but wouldn't be shocked to see some further south in the lower peninsula. Just want to mention that. So don't be shocked if you see some snowflakes falling. Wouldn't be the first time in October. It's about our typical time we start seeing snow, so it's not very uncommon. It's not uncommon at all, should I say. But overall, just be prepared if you do see some snowflakes. Outside of your week is no severe weather is expected, no major flooding concerns. It should be a pretty subtle week as long as you don't live next to the lake shore where water spouts could be a potential hazard. Otherwise, it should be a pretty subtle week. Going long term here, looking at the CPC guidance, the Climate Prediction Center guidance for temperature and precip. We talked last week about our drought that continues to be a concern. The 6 to 10 day temperature forecast, though, starting here from October 20th to the 24th. So after this week, we're looking at well above average temperatures. As we go back here to the plot, we're going to see those 70-degree temperatures. That's above average for this time of year. So a little bit warmer end to October potentially in store for us. So that's going to be your 6 to 10 day. But as far as precipitation goes, we're still looking at below average in terms of precip. Now, that is not helping our drought conditions here in Michigan. Speaking of drought conditions, the entire state basically is now under abnormally dry or higher conditions. So, abnormally dry is your yellow category. Moderate drought is your orange or a brownish tan color. The orange is a severe drought, and there's actually a very teeny, insy bitsy extreme drought. We call it D3 coming into southern Lenawee County. It's over there by Ottawa Lake, Riga areas, basically on the Ohio border. That's going to be the worst of it. Otherwise, the UP is driest. Up there in northern lower is also the driest in the state. That's why you're also seeing a lot of red flag warnings in effect, such as your fire hazard, fire danger. The fall or in the fall time, our humidity levels are typically a lot lower and our winds are a lot higher. So combine that with drought conditions across the state, you get a ripe environment for wildfires, brush fires to spread out of control, et cetera, et cetera. So drought conditions continue, and with the leaning abnormally dry conditions in the 6 to 10 day period, those are only going to get worse at our next update. So just keep in mind if you're going to be planning on burning stuff this week, whether it's trash or leaves or whatever, just please make sure there are no local restrictions in place. For one, I know a lot of local fire departments and counties have put out burn bans, so just make sure that you're not doing it illegally, and also make sure you're not burning on days where we could have red flag warnings in effect. We'll have those posted on our page if they are. Just keep that in mind if you do plan on burning this week. Just be safe about it. Make sure you have some water ready. Make sure you're monitoring it and standing by just in case things get out of hand. That is your week. About 9 minutes into the video here. It's a pretty subtle week. Nothing too major here. Typical fall. With that being said, we have one super chat here from Red Dozer. Thank you for your $20 super chat. He says, thanks, guys. Appreciate you, Red, as always. I also would like to shout out a sponsor of the video, Cats Roofing and Siding, based out of Lansing and Battle Creek metro areas. They do roofing, siding, gutters, and windows. 517-485-9886 is their number. If you do happen to get a hold of them, tell them MSC sent you. They would appreciate that, as would we. And yes, birthdays today. We have Caleb and Joel both sharing birthdays, October 14th. So wish them happy birthday, guys. Can you go over the cloud cover map, please, for the comet? Yes, we do have comet. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'll just call it the A3 comet. It's going over on the western sky after sunset. You may be able to see it with clear skies. However, popping out the good old handy dandy satellite right now, at least, go ahead and pop on our IR. Look at this one. We do have some areas that could have a good viewing opportunity here. There's your cloud cover. Most of us are clouded over, but there's some areas here that may sneak a view in, looks like. Looking at the viewing for tomorrow. Let's go ahead and go back to the model here because we can't look at live satellite for tomorrow. Let's go ahead and pop out the good old RDPS. Pop on cloud cover. There we go. Whitest clouds, blackest clear skies. Michigan's right here. Going to tomorrow night. Here's Tuesday. Bam. Viewing tomorrow should be a lot better if you're in southern central Michigan, western UP staying clear. Further north you go, though, some clouds are expected, so you may not have good viewing there. This is at sunset tomorrow. So South Central Michigan, definitely a chance to see it tomorrow. I don't believe this goes out to Wednesday, but looks like Wednesday might have much better chance of seeing it as we look to be mainly clear for a lot of the state, according to the model here. So look western horizon sky for the comet.
Yep, as you're looking west, you'll see Venus off to the bottom right on the horizon. Look at Venus, go directly to the right, and that'll be your comet. So that's kind of a little bit of bearings there on what to look for and where to look. But right towards the horizon, just above the horizon, right at sunrise, would be your best bet.
Thank you, Ashley, for coming back for another month. This is her 6th month. So thank you, Ashley. She says, happy birthday, Joel and Caleb. I appreciate you, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome back to the team. Or thanks for sticking with the team, should I say. Not really welcome back.
How cold do you think it could be tonight, asked Alec. Well, tonight, I think a lot of the state is going to be in the low to mid 30s tonight. Upper 30s and low 40s, closer to Lakeshore, South Central Michigan, central parts of the Northern LP, Gaylord, those areas. Wouldn't be surprised to see a 30, 32 degree mark mixed in there. Western UP is going to be your coldest area tonight. Those areas could see lows dip even in flirting with the 20 degree mark, around 29 degrees. So they could flirt below 30 degrees. A few lake effect snow showers could mix in for the western portions of the UP and the northern lower peninsula as well tonight. So I know we're kind of mid-October here, but we are kind of seeing a November type system come through, and that's bringing our temperatures below average tomorrow as that moves over. So definitely probably a good idea to start bringing in your hoses, start getting the water out of your hoses to prevent freezing, as we are getting nighttime temperatures now well below freezing. Good news is warm up here by the end of the week, so we are going to see some 70s move on in. So good news there. This is very short-lived. So, and no snow accumulations are expected tonight. But don't be surprised if you do see some wet snowflakes mix in overnight tonight and into tomorrow afternoon.
Sorry about that. I had a phone call.
Oh, you're good. And some freeze warnings are up for portions of the state, and that is because temperatures are going to be getting down close to the 30, 32 degrees. So take in your plants, drain your hoses, take precautions there. Like I said, after this week here, moving forward here, I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot more in the way of freeze warnings or advisories, as typically once you get a good solid week of freezing here mid-October, that typically marks the end of the growing season. So we'll have to see how many more nights they will issue those advisories and warnings here moving forward, now that we've had several nights well below 35 degrees in places. So, and there's your image there, that dark blue shaded area. The National Weather Service in Grand Rapids has went ahead and pulled the trigger on a freeze warning. So those of you in and around those areas, probably a good idea to bring in those plants that you have sitting outside, drain your hoses, and be ready for some frost on your windshield in the morning. Julie says the moon looks gorgeous right now. Yeah, it's going to keep getting bigger and brighter too. We have another full moon coming up, and that'll be Thursday night. That'll be the next full moon. It'll also be a super moon. This will be the third super moon of 4, and it'll peak Thursday night, but you'll also be able to see it for the next few nights after that as well, as it'll still be very large. So that's another thing to see this week besides the comet. We do have a super moon coming this week, so definitely a lot of cool stuff going on. Anita says, happy birthday to Joel and myself. Thank you, Anita. I appreciate that. And Joel does as well, as always. Rhombus says, so many supermoons. Yeah, we've we've got lucky here. We actually had a sequence of 4 of them here in a row. That doesn't happen all that often, but this will be the 3rd one in that sequence, and the next one will be next month. So yeah, 4 in a row here. So
November
cool.
15th, I believe, is the official date on that. And that will be the beaver moon.
Yep. We're gonna go. I believe this one's the hunter's moon, isn't it?
Yes.
Going from hunter's moon to beaver's moon, I believe.
That'd be correct.
Okay.
And the peak illumination is going to be Thursday morning at 7:30. So we're not going to see the peak overnight. So it's going to be light out when it does peak, but you're going to notice the difference. It's going to be big and bright there. So
yeah,
Wednesday night,
visually,
Thursday night,
if you see it, I mean, you're not going to notice the difference between the peak and the not peak. Visually looking at it, it's going to be big and bright in the sky.
Andy with a $100 super chat. Thank you, Andy, for that generous donation. Says happy birthday, Caleb and Joel.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
I'll be sure to let Joel know when we're off here that we had a lot of people wishing him a happy birthday.
Yeah, he'll be glad to know that.
Yep. And for those of you who don't know, Joel is a CMU college student. He'll be graduating with a meteorology degree in wintertime here. So he is studying and preparing. That's why he's been absent these past couple of weeks. So
yep,
you'll be seeing more of him next year for sure. But in the meantime, he is busy studying away in his last semester there.
Yeah, any other questions you guys have here, feel free to put them in the chat. Kind of open bar style tonight. Put them in, ask away, and we'll be happy to answer them here. We'll see on here for a little bit longer here yet.
We do have a podcast on Wednesday nights now as well. We'll be live back here on YouTube. It's only YouTube, not on Facebook. But we do have a podcast coming on Wednesday, 7 o'clock, I believe it is. So come back and join us if you want to hear us and talk weather with us. We'll happily open the floor for questions as well as just discussion in general. So
absolutely. And Rhombus asks, where or what time of day is best to try and see a water spout? Well, really any time, Rhombus. These lake effect showers, Ryan, if you want to pull up radar here, they actually kind of band across the lake as they form. So within those bands of lake effect showers, within those convective bands, you have a lot of rising, but you also have some convergence at the surface. So those winds are kind of converging together, and that's what forms those bandings. And it's within that surface convergence where sometimes you get a little bit of a surface rotation, not from the storm itself, but just from the surface conversion, just from the meeting of the winds at a different speed and direction there. But really, anywhere over the water is really the best place to look for those. There's not really a good way to specifically say one area versus another, just because water spouts are very sporadic in nature on where they form and how they form. But really, any one of those showers on the lake is capable of producing one. Typically, they're short-lived. They don't last very long. They don't usually come to shore, but if they do come to shore, they become a land spout. Just because they don't form from a rotating shower or thunderstorm. These are what we call fair weather water spouts. So they form kind of like a land spout from the ground up. But treat them with caution because they can have strong winds and they have been known to cause some minor damage and blow things over. So do kind of be wary of them if you do see one. Feel free to send us a pic or a video. We love seeing that, and we love the National Weather Service loves to know when there's a water spout as well. So if you do see one, be sure to let us know.
Yep. And there's also a couple good videos in our reports page, our Michigan Weather Reports group, should I say. It's not a page, it's a group. We had a couple people send us videos of water spouts coming on shore yesterday. Well, just one, at least one. I'll bring it up here and pop it in here full screen. Send in from Brittany. I'll go ahead and pop it in, share the screen. Here we go. So this is the video that was sent in to the reports page or group, and we went ahead and posted it on our page. But she's right there on the Holland or near Holland on Lake Michigan. And once this water spout moved onto shore, it dissipated pretty quickly. So,
yep, they typically do. They typically don't travel inland very far. A lot of what water spouts are feeding off of is the warm rising air off those lake waters. Now, keep in mind, Lake Michigan and Huron are relatively warm still. They've been baking and cooking all summer. Now they've lost a lot of their peak heating, but they're still relatively warm to the cold air around it. So you have a lot of warm, moist air rising up off that lake, and that's what water spouts love to feed on. So they lose that heat and instability once they move on the dry land. So that allows them to peter out. Oh boy. Samuel Thompson asked, since it's open bar style, can you give us a weather comedy joke? He asked.
Well, I don't see that joke.
I got one for you. You guys can try to guess in the chat here, since it is kind of open bar style tonight. In an orchestra band, what is the most likely player to be struck by lightning? It's more of a dad joke, but put your answer in the chat and see if you can get it right.
Say it again.
In an orchestra, who is the most likely player to be struck by lightning? See if anyone knows it here.
Summer says tuba.
Jack Attack says the tallest one. Yeah, that's fair. Wait for a few more answers to come in here.
Julie says trombone. We got some smart people in chat tonight, Caleb.
We do. It was the first thing I could think of, so put on the spot right there. Yeah, it is the conductor. The conductor is the most likely player to get struck by lightning. So, sorry, there's your comedy joke of the night. There's a reason I don't do stand-up, so that is why I would lose my audience. So.
We've been talking, Caleb and I, behind the scenes here because we've been trying to push out more in a way of like TikTok content and YouTube content. Have you guys seen like what is it called, like dock talk, where there's two guys sitting on the dock and they're telling dad jokes? I told Caleb we should get together one or 2 days or like for a weekend, and we should just make our own personal dad weather jokes and do like a rendition of that somehow.
Yeah, speaking of that, Ryan, did you hear what happened to me the other day?
No.
Well, I tried to catch some fog, but I missed.
I'm done. Yeah. See ya.
Okay, bye.
Oh, goodness.
All right, I'm done. I promise.
I think that'd be kind of fun, though, to do something like a doc talk type of remix and put our own spin on it. But Brandy says, how about them Lions? Well, I think one of us here is a Lions fan. The other one is a Cowboy fan. But
wow, way to just put me on the spot there.
No, Lions absolutely destroyed the Cowboys. So, but I mean, we also lost our best defensive players, so that's gonna hurt. But they have depth, so I have faith. I also have a gut feeling, for those of you who are hardcore Lions fans, I have a gut feeling that Hutch will be back by the end of the year, or at least close. I know it's a broken fibula, tibula, whatever you want to call it, but
they take time to heal, but there is still a lot of season left before we get to postseason. So,
yeah,
hopeful.
Right. Yeah,
I'll want to know X.
I'll do that, Caden. I got you.
Hopefully.
Detroit Tiger fans, I personally, I mean, I'm a fan, yeah, but I'm not a hardcore fan. I was watching their last game there against Cleveland. I was hoping they'd make it, but they're a young team as well, so they'll be back next year. At least they should be. All right, any other questions, guys?
Yeah, feel free to put them in the chat here. They can be weather related or aimed at us, or just let us know. We'll be here for a few more minutes yet before we end the night here. Again, I just want to say thank you for joining us as always. It's a pleasure to have you on stream here tonight. And we hope you all stay warm tonight as well. Be a little chilly out there tonight, so
That's for sure.
I was starting to get used to the 70s, and then Mother Nature sent a bombshell last night. Go from shorts and t-shirt to flannel. That's okay. It is October, so.
Who's ready for lake effect snow, though? I know I am.
I'm stoked. I'm ready for it.
I want to. One of the bigger things in the storm chasing bucket list for a few people at least is lake effect lightning, or should I say thunder snow. That's going to be the my main goal this year. I want to get.
Have you seen thunder snow before, Ryan?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I've actually not actively been outside, but I have heard it here in the house.
Okay. And that was probably from just a convective banding, not from lake effect, right? That was from.
Yeah, that was the FGen band. I think it was last year actually.
I think it was. I kind of remember that.
And yes, we do cover winter as well. We're not just storm chasers. We are winter coverage. We do everything.
Yep.
Aurora, winter, severe weather coverage. We're here for it all.
All year round. Julie says thunder snow is the only thing that makes it acceptable.
I can agree with that.
It does make a snowstorm more entertaining. I will give you that. If you haven't seen thunder snow, it is it's an experience. It's different, but it's really unique. It's really cool. The sound is different as well if you've never heard it in a snow squall.
So Caden asks the question, when do you think the first snow will be south of Grand Rapids? So it is a great question. I made a prediction out of the blue back in July or something about the first snowfall. I'm not talking about flakes. I'm talking about snowfall. I'm also not talking about the UP. I'm talking like lower Michigan, like Grand Rapids, Detroit areas. And the camera here, if I can get this little orange note behind me is that guess. It's been sitting there for the past couple of months, and it says December 3rd. That is my prediction for the first snow in the LP. Now, it's not scientific. It's not meteorological. It is just simply a personal guess. However, I will say I've been diving into some long-term data, and I think our first official snowfall is going to be a bit later this year. I don't think we're going to have early snowfall.
And building on that, we've already went over this early in the video, but if you remember what the Climate Prediction Center has for us here going out to end the month of October, we're going to be historically above average in terms of temperatures. So though we're going to be below average here for the near term over the next couple of days, on the extended forecast, we warm up fairly quickly. Though we're going to feel like mid-November here today and tomorrow, or tonight and tomorrow. As we move towards the end of the week, we're going to feel like what we were at the beginning of the month. We're going to be in the low to mid 70s in places. And so having those brief shots of cold air, yeah, they bring the chances for some lake effect showers and snow like we're going to see tomorrow, but they aren't really going to amount to much or accumulate to anything. And so having that ridge of high pressure continually build and pumping that warm air north, it makes it really hard for those Canadian systems to dive on south. Really, they just ride to the north and move on to the northeast. They don't really have a chance to dive in and stay to bring that persistent cross-polar flow. So going forward, what we're going to do before we issue a 2024-2025 winter outlook, we're still looking at climate data. We're still seeing how those numbers are coming together. There's a lot of factors that go into this forecast because we're looking at climate. Climate is the study of a long-term forecast versus weather, which is near-term, like 2 to 3 days. And so that being said, there's a lot of global factors that go into how a climate forecast is made. A lot of our oceans play a role in terms of their sea surface temperatures. How warm is the ocean? That temperature plays a role in how the jet stream is going to act this winter. It plays a direct correlation to how is it going to be a trough? Is it going to be real meridional, or is it going to be real zonal, a real quiet pattern? You know, how are those storm systems going to track, and how deep are they going to get? Are we going to get long-term cold, or are we just going to get shots of cold here and there? Those are questions that we have to figure out yet going into it. Right now, we're starting to see more of those puzzle pieces come together, not necessarily for one versus the other, but we're starting to see a little bit of a picture on how the first half of winter is going to trend. But the data is just not quite there yet to really put a set winter outlook out just yet. We're still waiting to see how those numbers play out here through the end of the month. My expectation is to have that outlook here by the first week in November, but we're just going to see how those data points correlate here throughout the end of the month. So that's just kind of a brief snapshot on what goes into making a climate outlook. Again, climate is all about trends. So we want to look for long-term trends on atmospheric data points on how those trends are going to correlate to then weather. So this is kind of a brief synopsis of how that works there behind the scenes. A lot of moving parts. So
yeah, it's not an easy task either.
It's not.
There's just so many things going into it.
Yep.
And also, like Caleb said, to reiterate all that, we're going to have an outlook for you guys. Let's go ahead and shoot for November 1st. I think we should have one by then, if not close to the 1st.
Yep. Just a few more pieces we're looking at just before we post that. So
if we were to post now, we could probably get a pretty good guess, but it wouldn't be a for sure thing just yet. So
Yep. Andy, I saw the Aurora for the first time last Thursday. What an experience. Yeah, it was. That was a really good storm there. So yeah, Aurora is one of those things. Once you see it once, you just want to see it again. I like to describe it as gold fever. You just want more. So, and that can also be sleep depriving as well. So you often stay up a lot later than what you should. So, so that's your warning for Aurora. It can make you tired.
For sure. And also, there is a chance if you live north tonight, if you have clear skies. We did have a weaker, we're going to call it a disturbance. It's a CME, but it's very weak. So there could be small, brief chances of Aurora for the UP and perhaps areas in northern lower like Gaylord, Sheboygan, Rogers Cities, those areas. Nothing too major, though.
Likely won't be visible with the naked eye, mainly camera only during those brief shots. So if you're out and about, look up if you're not clouded over by lake effect clouds. So nothing worth staying up all night for, but just a brief shot of Aurora is possible. So,
hey, Caden, I'm going to say no to that, not because I don't want you to use it, but because we have to pay for those for commercial use. So if you were to use those, you can get in some trouble there. So I wouldn't advise using those pictures or graphs.
Yep, we just don't want you to get in trouble.
Right. Any more questions, guys? The picture of Caleb atop his truck was awesome. I agree. That was a very one of the most. There's a lot of pictures what we call the Y man, by people in the Aurora with their hands up. But Caleb had a little bit different spin. He got on top of his truck and he did a pose. So Freddie asking a question, thoughts on a second season? Right now, looking kind of quiet. We still have about a month or so left before I would say we really call it quits. But overall, I don't see much in the way of any major changes.
With that being said, though, it's not impossible to get severe weather in the fall time. Typically, your fall, I'll go into this here real quick since you guys are still hanging with us. So in the fall season, generally it's shorter lived than what our spring severe weather season is. And a couple of reasons for that. One, it's harder to get all the ingredients transported this far north. We need, the slim factors. We need shear, instability, lift, and moisture. Now, typically in these fall storm systems, they are loaded with wind shear, and I mean absolutely stacked with wind shear. There's a lot of vorticity and a lot of spin with these systems, but If you don't have instability, lift, or moisture, well, they're not going to do anything. They're just going to bring some rain, some cooler temps, and they're going to move on with their day. But with that being said, fall is a season to where, although it's short-lived, it still has to be watched closely. It can't be pushed aside because of how much wind shear is present in a lot of these storm systems that move through. If you get any resurgence or any buildup of instability, lift, or moisture, it doesn't take a lot of that to create severe weather in the fall, just because we have a lot of kinematics. We have a lot of wind shear, bulk shear, speed shear. We just don't necessarily have the instability and moisture to go along with that to help create severe weather. So with that being said, right now, I don't really see a lot of those dynamics come together, but it's still something we have to keep an eye on just because in the fall, it can happen. Does it happen every year? No, it does not. But it's still something that we have to keep an eye on, and we'll update you if we do see something coming down the pipeline that raises concern. But right now, there is no system at this time that raises or rings alarms bells at this time. So all is pretty quiet.
Yep. Do you guys work with Grand Rapids Weather? Are we talking like the Weather Service, or is there another page called Grand Rapids Weather? We do work with local NWS offices all the time, including Grand Rapids, Detroit, Northern Indiana as well. But otherwise, we don't really work with other pages, so to speak. But we are colleagues, and we do back each other for sure.
Yep.
We're all here for the same purpose. So.
Yep, exactly. Any other questions, guys, here before we sign out for the night? Feel free to put them in the chat here. Again, I just want to say thank you for staying with us. It's a privilege, and I love seeing everybody here. So thank you for that, as always. So we'll go through a few more questions here before we call tonight. So feel free to put those in there if you have any. Has there ever been an extreme wind warning in Michigan? No, there has not to my knowledge. So an extreme wind warning is very rare. Only a few offices has ever issued those. And the reason for that is they are 100 knots or greater, or 120, 115 miles per hour or greater. So that's kind of what we saw down close to the coast for hurricanes. Those are generally issued for hurricanes. Now, have we been in a severe thunderstorm warning for extreme winds? Yeah. Those are typically have a considerable tag or a destructive tag in those as well. So we do see those. Typically, those are reserved for our derecho events. Those are our big storm complexes that move their way typically over the lake and across the state. Those are typically the wind makers in Michigan. But do they ever reach extreme wind warning criteria? Not typically. No, they don't. They don't get that strong. So,
for example, the big windstorm we had this year was Muskegon County. I don't know. I think it was like June 25th or something like that. There was a destructive severe, I believe that was for 80-mile-per-hour winds. That was one of the most severe storms we had this year, outside tornadoes, obviously, here in Michigan. So the extreme wind warning is 115 miles per hour or greater. So that's not something we're going to get here in Michigan probably once every 50 years or more. That's
yeah,
not,
for example, so some of you may be old enough to remember this. I don't. I'm a baby. But the 1998 derecho, for example, we'll just put this extreme up there just because it's only happened once. So that tells you how extreme this is. So the peak wind in that derecho actually probably could have met that criteria. So the peak wind gust was estimated at 130 miles per hour. And that was across the Great Lakes region. But that was one derecho in 1998, and it hasn't repeated since. Now, can it be repeated? Sure. Everything in weather is repeatable, but it's extremely rare and far between. You have to have extreme conditions come together in just the right way, time, to allow such an event to even happen. And so, would one ever be issued in Michigan? It's highly unlikely. So, the chances of seeing it in our lifetimes are pretty low, if not zero. So, and we should be grateful for that.
absolutely.
That will cause an insurmountable amount of damage. So, very, very glad that is not really a risk up here.
I'm going to go ahead and recap everything here, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up here about 45 minutes or so.
Yep.
So overall, start the week here, rainy and cold in comparison to what we're used to, at least. Temperatures in the mid to upper 40s, perhaps low 50s further south and more inland. We're going to rise into the 60s to the end of the week, and then perhaps into the 70s to start next week. And we'll be in the 70s for at least a couple of days, 3, 4, 5, perhaps. Rain chances tonight, tomorrow, and into Wednesday for sure until we get into a drier pattern. Starting on Wednesday, we're going to trend warmer into the late week. Water spouts are possible today, tomorrow, and Wednesday morning on mainly Michigan, but also Lake Huron and Lake Erie as well. Those shouldn't pose much of any risk at all. If one does come on shore, they are weaker, but still take it seriously if you live directly on especially Lake Michigan shoreline. Lake Erie should be okay unless you live in Cleveland watching us, which is unlikely. But if you do happen to live along the Lake Erie shore in Ohio, that's also a possibility to watch out for as well. Overall, no major severe risks, no flood risks. We're having a pretty subtle week outside of the water spouts. Some snow showers possible tomorrow, especially in the UP and northern lower. But we could see some flakes mixed in across the state. We'll have updates on that. No accumulations expected. That's your recap. I'm trying to think if I missed anything here. Drought conditions will continue to worsen if we stay dry, which is expected. The entire state is abnormally dry or into a drought. Not a good situation, but we are luckily heading into winter here, so that should help things just a bit. But overall, we need some rain across the state. We really do.
Yep.
With that being said, I would like to thank you guys for joining us tonight. Join us again Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. for our weekly podcast. We have some things planned, some topics to talk about, and as well as answering your guys' questions and hanging out with you guys. So come back for that if you're interested. We'll be live only on YouTube, not on Facebook, only on YouTube, Wednesday evening at 7. With that being said, pop out of here. We'll see you guys Wednesday. You guys have a safe week. If anything needs updating, we'll have the page updated, so stay tuned.